when people look at it today and you go, "Oh, well, he's really close to his mom. They must have had a good relationship." I don't think so. I think mom was all he had. Didn't have dad. Mom's the only one there. He's dependent on her for everything. So he exalts her. If he doesn't exalt her, then he has nobody at all. Rob Patterson, how are you?
Doing well, man. It's chilly here in St. Louis, hence the sweater. The high today was 17.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's we got some sort of what do they call it? The polar vortex. Something's happening. I think we're at the southern boundary of it here in St. Louis, but yeah, it's cold.
No.
So
Yep.
that's what I'm dealing with. How about you?
It is toasty here. There's no snow, and everybody's concerned that we're gonna have bad skiing this year. That's where we're at.
Oh yeah.
So I think we would like the polar vortex to come to Colorado.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, it was cold
mhm.
and so we spent a lot of time inside. And I ended up doing something that it seems like more like a you thing to do.
Lift weights, get chicks. What are you talking about? Things that I would do.
God. Oh no, no. I ended up watching a documentary series, and the documentary series that surprised me that I watched because the universe was telling me. I heard it from multiple people that I need to watch it. You included.
Mhm.
Someone also commented on an episode of ours suggesting I watch this, and I think the final straw was I was getting my haircut on Friday, and the gentleman who cuts my haircut started talking about this. I am of course talking about the Diddy documentary, The Reckoning, as I think it's called on Netflix. So
Uh,
that's what I did this weekend.
well, I am proud of you. I also have been watching The Reckoning. I've been watching The Reckoning, um, and I think this is a good thing for us to talk about. There's lots of fodder to be had.
Let me just stop real quick to say how surprised I am about this because you and I had talked about this last week. You had encouraged me to watch it, and my initial reaction was, I was trying to be a bit more thoughtful about whether or not it's worth my time. I think is how I would describe
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, just counterculture. Yeah. Okay. Any documentaries about maps?
it. I mean, I'd be all about that. In fact, unfortunately, I have not been able to finish the Ken Burns documentary on the American Revolution in part because I went from that, which was the documentary series I've been watching, to the Diddy documentary on the other side of the spectrum. So,
Doesn't Ken Burns do, like, 60-hour documentaries?
yes, yes,
And you watch that? That's
yeah.
that's that's what you're into is, like, just grueling detail.
See, and it's not grueling.
Oh my god.
It's just interesting. So, see, this is why you and I come from two different worlds. This is one of the things I think you and I talk about how we're similar in a number of ways. I think we couldn't be more different in this particular area. Anyway, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I'm surprised and a bit upset with myself that I enjoyed it so much. So that's what I
Uh,
wanted to tell you. I wanted to acknowledge the fact that you encouraged me to watch this thing among other people. And reluctantly, I really enjoyed myself.
and you were a better person for it.
I don't think that's true, but
Well,
I know more now than I did before. And I guess that's the upside.
this is a good topic for today's episode. So, I think we can cover this and let's have 3 separate conversations,
Okay.
okay? The first conversation is just, like, what did you think? Give your sort of, unchecked reaction to it. Any thoughts? Then we'll talk about Diddy's upbringing. What is his upbringing? What we now understand about his upbringing say about who he is or how it created him? And then I think we should have a conversation about the culture around Diddy, the culture of wealth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I guess I have a fourth topic, which is how do you see Diddy? Does this change how you see Diddy today?
Like,
That's like a good
I think
agenda.
there's, yeah. And I think for that last question, I mean, I love to find someone who says no, but yeah,
After the doc, I really love the guy.
yeah, it did change.
Yeah.
I was kind of skeptical. Now I'm all in. Where's his GoFundMe page? Uh, yeah, I like it. Let's do it.
Okay, what'd you think of the documentary?
Again, it was more enjoyable than I thought it was. I was telling someone yesterday that I was watching it, and we were talking. I'm like, well, this is not a documentary not like many are, but this isn't like a news story. This is a documentary with a very strong perspective, and the strong perspective is that Diddy is kind of like a monster or monster adjacent type of person, very manipulative, very works people to his own advantage, things like that. So I found it interesting just to see that, and then again to understand the why. So I would say the first two episodes of the documentary were a lot more interesting to me than the latter two, in part because of that. And I guess it's just the psychologist in me that wants to better understand how does this come to be, and not that his past is the only reason
Mhm,
that caused this to happen. But yeah, that got me. So that was the hook for me, is some of that background.
mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I only got through 2 episodes, so we're gonna talk mostly about the first 2 episodes tonight. If people like this, people want us to, we'll then do another one of
Yep.
these on the last 2 episodes. But you and I have already talked about the trial and
Yeah.
the relationship with Cassie and all of that. What we haven't talked about is Diddy's upbringing because we didn't really know. And so I thought this documentary did a really good job of describing how Diddy was created. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was entertaining. I also follow on Instagram, I follow Marlon Wayans,
Okay.
who has come out several times saying, 50 Cent, you're gonna get yours. Karma is out there. This was a mistake to have done this. You're creating a narrative which is not fair, and is very Marlon's very critical of 50 Cent for having produced this.
Right. Yeah. So he is the executive producer of this documentary.
50
Yep.
Cent is, yeah. A- And so part of me when I listen to when I'm on Instagram, I can't figure out like why is Marlon taking up for Diddy? And it's interesting to me that this documentary, which seems so damning, that there's part of the community that goes, "You shouldn't be sharing this." And it reminds me of did you watch the Chris Rock comedy special after he was slapped by Will Smith?
It- Not the entirety of it, but I watched a lot of clips of it. Yeah.
At the very end of it, he sort of makes, I mean, it's a great comedy special, but at the very end, he says, "What really bothers me about this is that, Will, you had us fight in front of white people."
Hmm.
And he drops the mic and walks off the stage. I think there's a part of this which is not good for the culture.
Yeah.
The idea that we're looking at, and it's a documentary about a very underserved, underrepresented population, right? Everybody in there is African American and very poor at the start of this, right? And
Yep.
they go through different things to get wealthy. But I just thought it was an interest like with the Marlon Wayans stuff in the back of my mind, that the documentary takes a different flavor, which I just think there's nuance there as far as
Well,
what's the impact of a documentary like this?
yeah, and I think that there were even people interviewed, and I can't remember in which of the four episodes, but maybe all throughout, where a couple of them even said something similar. I was reluctant to do or say anything, in
Mhm.
part for that reason, in part not to lean into a stereotype in the United States of the black community. Um, and so, yeah, there were a couple people who would say or who did say the same thing. But yeah, I'm ready to get into it. Before we do, I have just a quick random thought. And my random thought was, in the documentary, they have they talk about, the East Coast, West Coast you know, rap issues between different rap groups in the 90s. And I was just reminded of Snoop Dogg and how he emerged in the early 90s as a rapper. What caught my eye is the day before I was at a card shop and I saw he has his new cookbook out.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know what PR person he has, but I'm trying to think of a PR person who is more successful than Snoop. Like, if you were to ask Snoop in 1993, like,
Yeah.
what does 2025 look like for you? I don't think he would say hosting the Olympics, hanging out with Martha Stewart, and on my like fourth cookbook.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
He's
it was
had
just,
quite the career arc.
oh my God. I mean, one of the most fascinating career arcs of anyone because it's so unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but it
Well,
was one of the things that I couldn't get past.
I did have a thought, a related thought to that, which was when they're showing all of the people, Death Row Records in particular, like I liked all of those rappers
Yeah.
growing up. And I was thinking, I was too young. Like this was all happening in whatever, 94. So I would have been, 12 or something or 11 during this time, or maybe even younger than that. Uh, So I wasn't there right when it was happening, but when I was
Yeah.
in sixth grade, I thought that Snoop was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Same.
the whole thing. Uh, I was not the demo. Like you learn about this, like the culture and the violence and the energy around the music. And then you have it. I just like I can imagine that Suge Knight would have probably not been thinking, gee, I hope that a sixth grader in Monument, Colorado is going to be really, really grooving to this music. You know what I mean? Like it's like in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, this was part of my youth. It was not. I was not
But
part of that at all. You know what I mean?
see, and I'll disagree, is I would say Suge Knight maybe didn't start that way, but he certainly, I would imagine, like a lot of these producers and moguls of the time, hoped and at some point were glad that the fact that two suburban like white guys or white, kind of like preteens,
Yeah. Yeah.
we were among millions
Mhm.
that got into it.
Mhm.
Because if you think about rap music then and now, I
Yeah.
mean, there are conversations now, and it's, two generations later. All right, well, has rap music finally hit its peak? I was reading something the other day, like there was the first time in a long time that there wasn't a rap either album or single in the top 10 Billboard charts. I can't remember which one it was. There, I was reading some articles about that. But if you think about that, is what 30 years
Mhm. Mhm.
that rap music has been atop the pinnacle,
Yeah.
atop the conversation in music. And
Yeah.
so maybe we weren't the initial target audience, but I think we were part of the target audience. And if not for the widespread appeal,
Mhm.
you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
That's true. That's true.
Because the same thing with me. I mean, Tupac, I had to get him burned, and I had to hide them because my
Yeah.
parents wouldn't have liked it.
Yep.
Getting burned CDs,
Yeah.
or it was all the parental um, advisory stuff. I think I said in our last episode, the first CD I remember purchasing with my own money was Puff Daddy and the Family No Way Out, but it was the edited version because I was with my parents when I bought it.
That is so funny that I forgot about burning CDs. I had so many burned CDs, and I
Yeah.
would make burned CDs and give them to my girlfriends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, you give burned CDs out to everyone. I mean, I had Tupac's, the 2 disc greatest hits. My friend burned it for me.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, we've gone
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole we can emerge from, but that was one of the big takeaways was good job for Snoop and that whole team of people who did that, because that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. He went from being brought up on murder charges, almost arrested at an award show, to cookbooks with Martha. That's a big swing.
It
Big
is.
swing. Okay, so let's talk about Diddy. Like, how do you make a Diddy? The way that I will tell you how he was made, as I remember it in the documentary. You tell me if I've got
Yeah.
fact wrong. but he grows up and he was not a they called him a paper gangster. He didn't
Yeah,
really
a term I learned, yes.
which was so funny because I was on the treadmill today listening to that, and I was thinking, "I'm gonna text Rob and tell Rob that I would like to be a paper gangster." If I was gonna be a gangster, paper only. I'm not going into the street. I'd like you to think I'd like to financially be a gangster, but nobody
Right.
wants to be out in this but no one wants to be the paper gangster apparently.
Yeah,
Apparently, Diddy
no.
didn't wanna be a paper gangster,
Right. No, no, he
but
did not.
I would be aspiring to it.
Yeah, same with me. It would be
Yeah.
aspirational for me as well.
Yeah. But he wasn't a traditional gangster, but he grows up in a it seemed like impoverished household. He has mom who has assorted jobs, and the
Mhm.
documentary is not super clear initially about that, but his mom is everything to him. They're very close. Dad is a, in quotes, hustler,
Mhm.
which, I've heard to mean that he was a drug dealer,
Yep, same.
but a hustler of women and had money as a consequence of that, but he was an influential figure in the neighborhood because of his hustling. I think
Yep,
that Diddy grew up believing that his father was a powerful and successful business type of person. Someone who could make things happen in the streets.
yep,
His dad is killed. He's grows up being raised by his mom. And he doesn't even know what his dad does other than stories. And then he saw some newspaper clippings and took pride in the fact that his dad was a hustler. His mom had 3 or 4 different jobs. It sounded like she was very popular in the neighborhood. She had lots of parties over at their place. My perception was that she was some kind of prostitute, stripper. She was selling herself, selling other things to make ends meet. But because she was doing that, they were not totally impoverished. They had some money.
yeah, there was even a scene where with some like, they were interviewing that neighbor kid who was his, apparently one of Diddy's good friends growing up, and there was, like, a dance floor in their living room, right, where there was just, yeah, a lot of parties, and she was hosting a lot of people.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So that upbringing, and then it switched to the documentary also shared that they were very close. Diddy was very close to his mom, and he remained close, throughout his life, or he's
Yep.
still close to her, I think. But she was also abusive. So when things would go sideways, she would beat the shit out of him in a big way.
Yeah, verbally, physically, emotionally, I can imagine, yeah, all of it, all the above.
So when you look at it, you see, in my mind, a very chaotic childhood. And you can kind of see all of the things that you see in Diddy today, I think can track back to that childhood. Like the desire to be entertaining, to be the center of attention, back to the mom at the dance floor. Like that's how he learned. That's what success looked like for him.
Yep, I would agree. I think that's part of the reason it was interesting to me is it was hard for me to shut off my brain, especially in the first episode where they were just talking about his upbringing, and it was really difficult for me to not make those connections. Like, all right, well, God, look at the environment he grew up in
Hmm.
and where he is right now. And again, there's a lot of connections there.
Yeah. Yeah. So he grows up. He is, my assumption is that he was marginalized by his mom. And the mom is all that he's got. So when people look at it today and you go, oh, well, he's really close to his mom, they must have had a good relationship. I don't think so. I think mom was all he had. Didn't have dad. Mom's the only one there. He's dependent on her for everything. So he exalts her. If he doesn't exalt her, then he has nobody at all.
Yeah,
Right. So he has to say she's wonderful. But the
It-
truth was that he was always on the side.
yeah, yeah. Not the focus of her attention, and he didn't have siblings, right?
Right. I don't
Yeah.
believe, as far as I know, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I didn't see any in there either. So yeah, I mean, very much just the 2 of them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. And the way he grew up, the most successful person around him was the person with the drugs,
yeah,
the person that had the money, and the person that was violent. Like, I think those are the 3 things that made somebody successful in that world. Those are
right.
all markers of power in his upbringing.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned, just combining the fact or adding to it kind of the way he exalted his dad, who he really didn't know, and just, understanding, I'm sure, from things maybe his mom said or others in the community said about him. Like, all right, well, this guy, I got a sense of who he is, but he is maybe a bit more of my North Star. I want to be like him, at least as a kid, kind of in absentia.
Mhm. So how do you look at that? And so I think you can look at his childhood and you can see where the dysfunction comes from. But what about the positive things about Diddy? Like he came from nothing and became very successful. He takes an internship at a record studio
Yeah.
and he differentiates himself. Like there is a quality there that is, I mean, it was admirable. He was doing something right to position himself the way that he did.
I think if you look at, the work that we do and think of if we look at success, what are some of the predictors of success in a professional who does anything? A big predictor of that success is just someone's drive, their goal or achievement orientation. And certainly something you can't take away from him is his drive. That's a big part of it. I would say secondly, his ability to network and build relationships. I mean, from the sound of it, he just was putting himself out there, knocking on people's doors, just showing up to their offices and saying, "Hey, give me a chance." It's two separate things, but yeah, I mean, why, at least in part, did he achieve the success that he did? I think that's a big part of it. Just the drive, dedication, and his ability to do and say the right things to build and maintain those professional relationships, like he did when he had his first um, job at a record label.
Yeah, I there's a part of it that I can't wrap my head around that I think I'm really envious of, which is if you said, David, right now, do you want to own a record label? Or let's just assume I was competent and I knew something about the music industry. I think for most people, most adults, the answer would be that's too much. I don't have the business acumen. I don't have enough experience. The stress of it going belly up, the responsibility of taking care of the artists, like all of these things are burdens and things that would overwhelm the average person. So it's interesting to me that at such a young age, he had the sense of agency or the ego to say, I am able to do this and I could do it better than the person who's doing it right now. Right. Like
Yep.
he was trying to push the guy out because he thought he was better at running a studio
Yeah.
or a record label, which
Right.
is, I mean, it's a distorted, you have to have a distorted worldview to think you can do something like that.
Yeah, but I think in a lot of, especially high level leadership positions, there has to be at least some of that, right?
Hmm.
Some of that confidence, some of that cockiness, some of that ego to
Hmm.
say that I can do this. Maybe not I alone can do it, but certainly I can do this potentially better than anyone else can. Because and I thought something similar because in the documentary they, one of the main interviewees is someone who started Bad Boy Records with Diddy.
Hmm.
And my sense of it, watching the entire documentary, is he helped Diddy start the record company, but was certainly more kind of on the operational side of
Yeah.
things, kind of managing the back of the house, so to speak. He was not the up in front, getting things done, getting deals, getting artists to
Yeah.
sign, things like that.
Yeah. 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 He was more like the COO
Yeah.
or CAO of the deal.
Yeah. So I agree with you totally that there's some ego about him that helped him achieve what he did.
Yeah. So then the question then is there a, well, I guess like do you think as a rule that to be successful in business, you have to have a some narcissism? You have to have some distorted view of yourself in the world.
E- well, successful in business, no. Successful in executive leadership, maybe. maybe there's an inflated sense of ego there. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of downside.
Yeah.
Everything you were saying, if you are crippled by those constant questions of yourself, your ability, the impact that your decisions have on a lot of people around you, then you're probably not going to be not going to be effective. And while I would say that awareness and understanding of, especially of the impact of others around you, I think is helpful. There's a Goldilocks zone there. If
Mhm.
it's too much, if you're overly concerned,
Right.
that can prevent you from making decisions, that can prevent you from achieving goals. And ultimately, I would say in most organizations,
Mhm.
those types of people who are overly concerned with those types of with that with the impact on people are not necessarily going to be effective leaders, even if they have the strong drive and intelligence and kind of
Mhm.
skill set and experience in their industry.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's a part. I mean, it's kind of like I would think about politicians also.
Yeah.
Who's nuts enough to think that they have the skill or ability to even run a city, to govern a state? You're crazy. To think you should be the president of the United States, you have got to be absolutely out to lunch,
Right.
right? Like it's a distorted. You have to have an absolutely distorted worldview if you think you're the guy that should run the country.
Right.
I don't care where you fall politically.
Yeah.
And you have to have that skill set. That mindset has to be there, I think, to elevate in a in a competitive business world because all the risk factors would stop most people.
Yeah. It certainly has to be one of the ingredients.
Mhm. But it is especially notable, I think, in Diddy's case because it's not like he was raised. It's not like he went to, he had a dad that was a professor and a mom that was a doctor, and he went to Harvard and then went to business school at University of Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? It's not like he has
Yeah. Yeah.
any reason to think that he'd be successful.
No.
You know what I mean? And so it's really impressive, I think, to go from nothing to something.
Yes, especially with the lack of support that he had to do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I I I want to talk before we go too far away from kind of his beginnings there. You know, just the focus it sounds like he had on success and wealth that permeated his entire life,
Hmm.
starting from an early age. I guess I'd like to hear from you. Like, when you were growing up, did your parents talk to you about money? Do you have any memory of what your financial situation was like in your family?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I guess I guess I have two answers to the question. Parents were divorced. Mom and stepdad probably talked about it more, but we were middle class. I think upper middle class. I hate to say it because I think that everybody thinks
Everyone
that
says
they're middle
that. Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
Um, mom was it. My biological mom was a elementary school teacher, and then when I was in high school, she started writing books and was a librarian. Stepdad was a financial planner. Uh, Bio dad ran a tree trimming company. Stepmom stay at home mom. So I thought those are generally middle class jobs.
Yeah.
Um, what I remember is not really a conversation about around money, other than it was really clear to me that the money that my parents had was not my money. Both mom and dad's. I don't care where I was staying. It was not like, oh, I can just have your money. It was very important that I earned my own money.
Hmm.
Um, maybe I'm going too far from kind of where you're thinking about this, but I guess what I would say is like as I think about it from a Diddy standpoint, money was not a concern for me though. Like I
It was not
never
scarce.
It was not scarce. I never worried about it. I didn't think that we had a lot or a little, but I knew that we'd always have food on the table. My parents went to
Right.
work. Everybody was it was not a it was like not it was pretty much a non-issue.
Yep.
I will tell you, the one lesson that my dad taught me that I still think about today, and I want to share it with my kids. Is he said, David, it doesn't matter. You can be anything that you want to be. Doesn't matter what you want to be. You just have to be in the top 10% of whatever you're doing. If you are the if you are in the top 10% of garbage men, you will make a good living. If you're a top 10% teacher, you'll make a good doesn't matter. Just make sure you're in the
Okay.
top 10%. And I think that's a damn good rule. Like I sort of stand by that when I approach my life and career, and I hope my kids I will share that same view to my kids.
How does that affect how you show up in your job now as a professional?
I'll answer it in 2 ways. The first is I'm a little bit offended that you're not assuming that I'm in the top 10%, but I'm gonna let it go. I do think that I do genuinely I do strive to be in the top 10%, and even some of the decisions I've made from a like a career path standpoint, moving from being a traditional therapist to being to doing business psychology is part of that idea of being in the top 10%.
Mhm, mhm.
What about you? How is money treated in your family?
I mean, I would say largely similar to you. Um, my dad is a retired family practice physician, and my mom worked when my sister and I were younger, and then stayed at home, like younger, like young. And then, yeah, when I was more grade school aged, she stayed at home. We didn't talk about it until I was older, but yeah, it was not scarce for me, and it makes me think the fact that we didn't talk about it and that I never had questions about it is a good indicator that
Mhm,
things were fine,
mhm. Yeah,
more than fine.
yeah, right.
Um, and so it is kind of a lucky place to be in a way that's very different, I think, than someone like Diddy,
Mhm.
who even if he never asked, he probably didn't have to. He was just observing the world around him, and it
Right,
was very different.
right. If you think about the parties his mom was having at their apartment, in my mind, the whole purpose for the party was money,
Yeah.
right? The whole purpose was money, power, like, that was central to him.
Well, yeah, it was almost like I mean, money was maybe the end, but it was the attention
Right.
that then led to the money. And I
Yes.
think that's something I was connecting as I was watching it is it's very connected for him. And I think it's connected for a lot of people, but it's very connected for him. It's the attention. With that attention comes money.
Yeah. You're 100% right, that those 2 things were paired early on. I don't think I even really clocked that, but that would be the messaging to him.
Yeah.
So, of course, when he's, running a record label, he wants to be I thought that was really interesting to see how people were so annoyed with him, like, hopping in all of their videos and trying to get a line on their records, right? But he needed the attention for his ego, but also because in his world, the attention equals success
Yeah.
and money. It reminds me of DJ Khaled, who keeps screaming that everything's from DJ Khaled.
DJ Khaled. Rap artists in general tend
Yeah,
to do that. It's different in that way that you
mhm.
wouldn't hear from a lot of other genres of music, just kind of
But
acknowledging who's in the room with them.
it came in stark contrast to Suge Knight's style.
Oh yeah, yeah. Suge Knight over at Death Row. Yeah.
Yeah, at Death Row. So, okay, so th does that do you think we covered Diddy? Anything we're missing as far as like, upbringing, the creation of Diddy?
I think the other thing that comes to mind for me is like a risk tolerance. And what I mean by that is if you come from meager beginnings, do you have a greater risk tolerance because there's less to lose?
Yeah, yeah, I think you absolutely do.
Right. So part of the hustle and the drive that he has, I think, is in part due to the fact that the alternative is what?
Mhm,
Staying where I am, which is not what I want to do, is not my vision for myself, and it's not comfortable.
mhm, mhm.
So not only is it not what I see myself doing, I'm uncomfortable and there's a lot of scarcity around me. So that may cause me, given all the other components of who he is as a person,
Yeah.
then go seeking something out like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. So he had a lot of things, you know. Now, there are a lot of people that go through things just like he went through and don't end up as Diddy, right?
100%. And there are a lot of people they interviewed who came from similar backgrounds, even in New York, these emerging rappers in the 90s,
Yep.
who, for one reason or another, a lot of them would say it's because of him,
Mhm.
had, a fraction of the success that he
Yep.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the culture around him,
Hmm.
which I thought was a really interesting thing, and I'll frame it up just by sharing my, like, initial reaction, which was there's a whole world in culture around the creation of music that's
Yep.
depicted in the documentary. And in my mind, almost all of the behavior, the way the businesses were run, the way the people interacted felt incredibly dysfunctional to
Yep.
me. And it's like, why are we feed you would sort of want to like put everybody on pause and be like, what in what world do you run a business this way? Do you treat people this way? Like it just felt so far afield from what I would want people to like how a normal business runs, at least as far as the businesses that you and I are exposed to,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's a good caveat.
Hmm.
Is I think there are a lot of bubbles
Hmm.
in life, and it's easy for us to not see that, what bubbles we're a part of.
Yeah.
But I think if we think of the organizations that we partner with, I mean, the fact that they're willing to pay psychologists to help their people, their teams, and their organizations.
Hmm.
I'm making up
Right.
numbers here, but I mean that
Yeah.
automatically removes like 2/3 of
Yeah.
businesses.
We have a biased sample, no question.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so I think you're right. For my mind, I think of that sometimes too.
Hmm.
And it's a very biased sample that
Hmm.
we find ourselves interacting with on a daily basis.
Hmm.
And it's so crazy to me that those types of organizations not only stay afloat but can thrive.
Right. But it made me think, you know, I look at it and I have a critique. I have a critique and even judgment around how they're being run. And I think part of it is just a consequence of the fact that you have a very marginalized group. This is a group of, I think, 100% African American leaders, business leaders or performers, artists, and they're operating under a famine mentality because it's really a famine, right? These are not people that are highly educated. These are not people that have been around financial success in the past. These are not people that have strong mentors in the business world. These are people that have, like, through just sheer grit and intensity, and in Diddy's case, ego, and luck, whatever, have put themselves in a position where they have resources. But of course, there's not if there's not guiding principles or structure around it, you're gonna lead these businesses in a way that doesn't seem. I mean, it's almost like it's very old school, right? Like makes me think of like the gangs of New York.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
why would you function that way in New York? Well, at the time, they had no resources in New York. They didn't know how to take care of their businesses. So we fought,
Nope.
right? And this is the
Yep.
same thing, just at a different time period.
Well, it's the
I don't know. What did
scarcity
you
again, right?
scarcity? Yes.
It's part of that, right? It just keeps coming up for me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same. I like you and am not. I don't know much about the entertainment industry, the music industry, and so my conceptions of it are probably a bit more pop culture based. But yeah, I think about the fact that although these individuals here come from maybe more meager backgrounds than others, in general, I think that industry seems to have a bit more of these types of issues because you have people on the business side who at least know business and the business of music. And then
Mhm.
you have the artists who oftentimes don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I don't like for example, to take it more modern, like I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but because my wife loves Taylor Swift, I have come to know a lot about Taylor Swift. And there was a big to do a couple years ago when she bought the rights to all of her records.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I can't even sit here and tell you why someone would want to do that other than I believe that she gets to then make all the money when it's played. So people pay her as opposed to a label or someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know any more about that?
No, I'm just marveling at I'm sure Suge Knight would love to hear that there's a parallel between him and Taylor Swift.
Right, right. But I mean, I think people will look up to her as someone who, is now on I think the savvier side of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when she started as a teenager, of course, her and whoever was shepherding her through this process were not.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I say all that to say it's probably not unique in the industry, especially if you go back to the late 80s and early 90s when he was starting,
Mhm.
and it's more pronounced where they are. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you I was thinking when I was watching, I was thinking about, well, who would I want if I was an artist back then? Who would I work with, Bad Boy or Death Row? And I was thinking I for sure I would have wanted to be with Death Row.
Right?
Did you have that same did you think about it that way?
Well,
Were
I think
were you fantasizing about being an artist on Death Row?
well, I mean, as I do,
Yeah.
as as a middle-aged white guy from the Midwest, just thinking through, all right, well, what could have been one of the paths less traveled?
Yeah. Suge Knight
My
would have
rap,
been recruiting
my
you
rap
after
career.
this. Yeah.
Well, we have Nelly, and don't take that away from us.
Mhm. That's true.
Um, but yeah, I don't know what rappers have sprung from Denver.
I don't
But
think it's not a hub.
yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, if I just think of the artists that I know on the record labels or between the record labels, yeah, I mean, Death Row Records is, I mean, taking nothing away from Biggie, but there was just more on
Mhm.
the Death Row side.
I was thinking, I don't know how to do this, but it would be really interesting to 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 model out strong leadership and then use Diddy and Suge Knight as like representations of that. Meaning, not that I don't think they're either good. You couldn't do it because they're both horrible, horrible people. But the difference was that you had a leader in Diddy who was trying to take from the artists, right? I mean, he looked to me.
That's okay.
If
Yeah.
if I were going to diagnose him, right? There's narcissism there. It feels a little bit on the antisocial side, like he just is
Mhm.
ruthlessly taking from his artists, right? They are not able to feed themselves, and he is flaunting their money in front of them, not fulfilling contracts, and really leveraging his power to get what he wants.
Yep.
In contrast, you have Suge Knight, who I understand is I mean, I'm minimizing 90% of who he is, which is a horribly, like a terrifying figure that,
Yeah.
like, it's a vicious person. So
Uh-huh.
with a grain of salt here, right? But the way he approached recruiting people was to say, I am not going to be the center of attention. I'm going to build a badass team and I will elevate you versus elevating myself.
Yeah.
Right? He defended his people. He was ready to go to battle for his people. He was partners with his people in a different way than Diddy was.
Yep.
And it's like it was an interesting thing because my sense is that he was more respected as a consequence of that than was Diddy.
So I think what I hear is you would like to write a leadership book, kind of outlining a compare and contrast model of the leadership styles of these two gentlemen. It sounds like that's
My next publication.
your next publication. Yeah. Well, your
Now,
first publication, but yeah, your next one, first
I will
one.
say that the murder is a little bit of a problem. Suge Knight's in jail now for murder, so that's a hard one to get around. It's not the best leadership behavior.
Correct.
Um, but if you were writing a book about it, you would say that people do want to follow leaders that do what they say. They don't
Right.
want to follow the paper
Follow
gangster.
through.
They want to follow the real gangster that doesn't elevate him. I mean, I think that there are some. I mean, I'm kidding, but there are some through lines which I can see why the West Coast got so much power so quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say if you look at just what we learned about someone like Suge Knight through this documentary, I think that's what you see, right? Is
Mhm.
it appears as if he treated people at his label better than Diddy treated his artists. Um, Pretty low bar, it appears. Anyway,
I
um,
just I just know that people are gonna listen to this and be like, "These 2 guys know so little about these 2 people." Because I mean, like, there's I Suge Knight's a horrific person and has killed, they think, lots of people. So I feel like I have to say, I don't really think that he's a strong leader, okay?
I can't wait. Yeah, I mean, you were saying something a couple episodes ago about how I was going to get a lot of hate mail. I mean, you're not going to get hate mail. You're just going to get a lot of like, what the fuck mail. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like, what the hell is wrong with you? I think, yeah, what the hell mail? What the fuck
yeah,
mail? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it deserved, I'll take it.
yeah,
I agree, it's deserved.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're trying to do a compare contrast, and I, I don't think that's something to compare or contrast. But I think what the documentary did do is try to show, all right, well, at least Death Row
Yeah,
tried to take care of their artists.
yes.
By take care, I mean pay them and not try to screw them over. And what the documentary was also trying to say is that Diddy from earlier on had a routine um, kind of approach to screwing over the people who worked for him.
What about anything you saw, like we had talked before this episode about the impact of wealth, the psychology of wealth. Anything stand out to you watching the documentary?
Well, I think again for Diddy, it appears as if wealth was a source of not only power but self worth. And are you familiar with the topic or with the concept of the hedonic treadmill?
No,
Okay.
but
So
I want one.
well, I think you're on one. Um, but I think I'll get this right. So the hedonic treadmill is the more success that you have. So let's say you win the lottery tomorrow, you win $500 million.
Mhm.
For a while, your life is going to seem crazy. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Everything about my life is different. You may think it's all improved, at least for a time. And it's great. So there's an elevated sense of yourself. And after a while, however long it is, that becomes your baseline.
Mhm.
Being an extremely wealthy person. I talk about this with my wife the first couple times because of all the credit card, games that I play for travel points. I go in like the first time I got into a lounge at an airport, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Mhm.
And then I've been to a couple, I'm like, oh, well, I want to go to a better one. What's a first class lounge look like? Like, that should be my next goal.
Yeah.
The hedonic treadmill is essentially like a concept that says, you achieve some sort of goal and it seems big in the moment, but over time that becomes your baseline. And the treadmill is always on incline. Like you always need that next hit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as a result, you continue to act, you continue to behave, you set goals for yourself, either that you're aware of or that you're not, in order to achieve that next thing. So you're just always on the treadmill. It never
Mhm.
stops and it's always on an incline.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
It totally makes sense, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's also gotta be a component about that, which is it changes how you see yourself in reference to other people.
And that's it.
As you as you progress, are you then viewing other people differently?
I think, I mean, it sounds like, especially for him, people are not the end, they're a means to an end.
Yeah.
So being there, because you could argue, God, man, I mean, you could make half of what you've made and you would still be one of, if not the most successful record label executive
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You could pay your people, even if it would be shitty. You could do that and be fine. But
Mhm.
in the documentary, it comes out that he doesn't do that.
That's really interesting. Yeah. That totally makes sense,
Right.
especially if as you're progressing on that treadmill, if you're also equating it with, power and success and achievement, right? It's not just like for you, you go to the first class lounge and you're like, "This is really nice. I want more first class lounges." But I don't think it impacts your identity.
Right.
Like, you're
Right.
not like, "I'm a better person."
Right.
But if you're Diddy as he progresses, I wonder if he also goes, "Now I'm this kind of person. Now I'm this kind of person."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the enmeshment of the identity with the level of status could lead to really distorted behavior.
Yeah, it starts to become, yeah, part of your identity, part of your self-worth. I am only worthy to
Yeah.
the extent that I can continue to achieve more and more and more.
Mhm.
And I'm not worthy if I don't do this.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that was the other thing
Yeah.
that consistently came coming back to me as I was watching this.
Mhm.
And then you just have to maintain that. In order to maintain it, you have to continue going down this rabbit hole of losing yourself,
Right.
hurting other people, which is people who watched it will know. And I'm sure if you heard of anything about, this whole saga, he hurt a shit ton of people that we know of,
Mhm. Right.
and a ton that he allegedly hurt, and then even more that have not done or said anything or come
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about this for a while, but I guess before we sign off, or anything else you'd want to say about kind of how he got here? Any other thoughts you had about wealth and
The
kind of his
the
background?
the only thing I would just add to it, and this is maybe sort of transition into who he is now, but I was thinking as I'm watching him record himself watching the FBI watching him, uh,
Oh God,
I was
yeah,
like "Why would you do that?" And then I was thinking, "Man, all of the people in that room with you probably can't fucking stand you. They know you're abusive, you've abused them, you're probably underpaying them. Like these you have because he's on that hedonic treadmill, stepping on people on the way
yeah,
up, he's only surrounding himself with people that are wanting money, and they're willing to put up with whatever monster he is because they're gonna get some little bit of money. And that knowledge, which I am certain he's aware of, would be the most depressing thought. I can't imagine if every time someone was hanging out with me, if I thought they're only here because they're hoping I'm gonna pay them a little bit of money.
yep.
They don't like me now. Like, they don't actually wanna be here. That would be like, in your loneliest moments, you're surrounded by people that hate you. I mean, it just seems like a really unhealthy just, it sounds awful to me.
Well, it does, and again, it just makes me think: is that? I mean, thanks for bringing up the camera crew that he hired to follow him around. I mean, I don't remember if there was ever an explanation as to what happened. I think I heard that he did this maybe as a PR thing, and then he never paid the
Oh,
the people who did this, which is why or how 50 Cent he ended up buying this. I could be making this up.
yeah, I
Um,
I don't I don't know either. My assumption was that he thought that at some point he could leverage it to tell a story,
yeah,
that something like that. I don't know.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it mind blowing. I mean, even though nothing is all of that terrible that he says or any of the people around him say, like in that part of it, I think it just creates this narrative of look at this guy.
Yeah,
Like, look at this life that he's leading. Look at how he sees himself.
yeah,
But again, I say all that, and I think, and maybe this goes to where at least I want to close today, Dave, which is, do other people see that? I wonder if other people who watch this are having the same thoughts that that
Mhm.
we have about, like, where is this guy coming from, or can you believe it? I mean, I think the documentary does a really good job of having a strong editorial perspective here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wonder if, like, if other people would just see, yeah, he's a powerful guy, he has a short temper, he gets what he wants, and he doesn't, yeah, and that's just
Yeah.
what it is.
I do think that, I mean, it's people can say in the comments, but I do think that there is a segment of the population that looks at it and goes, "He's a very powerful man, and that's the picture of success." This
Mhm.
idea of having you have this entourage. I mean, I was just thinking at the end of, I think it's episode 2, he's walking to the elevator and he's got this guy behind him holding a necklace,
Yeah.
like trying to loop the necklace over his head, and he finally puts it on, and Diddy gets in the mirror and goes, "I don't want that necklace." And the guy's like trying to reach, and I was thinking that poor man that's following him around trying to put a necklace. I mean, that guy has got to be miserable. And Diddy has to be miserable that he has this, and like it's like this little nugget of feeling powerful that you've
Yeah.
got some dude doing that. It just feels so, the whole thing feels so bleak to me.
Right. I mean, it seems very bleak to me as well. The last thing I'll mention is, obviously we're getting a perspective here.
Yep.
And, and they have all the relevant disclaimers at the beginning and end of every episode about what's going on and all this
Mhm.
type of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, so as a result of having watched this, like, what's another perspective? Could someone be watching this, and maybe this is kind of where we're going, is, like, hey, actually, you know, what you didn't see here is any major artist, right? You saw people that you and I, or that I have, for the most part, never heard of before, who seem pretty upset with him because they feel like he screwed them, right? And you
Mhm.
even have someone there who's saying, even though he tried to screw me, and this is maybe later episodes you didn't see, yeah, he screwed me, but I didn't see any of these things that
Yeah.
people are alleging against him.
Yeah. The other narrative would be that to make it in that environment, you have to be ruthless. The suggestion that he was involved in Tupac's murder is just a suggestion. It could be that no one's proven that, right? And if you compare Diddy to what's happening on the West Coast, right? Suge Knight is I mean, he is in jail right now and will be until he's like 78 for murder. Like what Diddy did was party and take advantage of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And what other people were doing is, I mean, Diddy was the paper gangster and there was a real gangster. And so I think maybe that's the narrative for people. I struggle with it though, even as I'm trying to like conjure up, like
Yeah.
we've
Me too.
seen Diddy beat a woman
Yeah.
on video. I really struggle to get my mind around the segment of the population that's like Diddy supporters. I can't. But I think that's the narrative. Is this is a man that came from nothing and found success.
I,
I,
I think so too. I think that the people who will apologize for him, I don't know who those people are now. I before this weekend, I've not followed this very closely. But I can imagine in just the population, there are people who will apologize
mhm,
for him, or, kind of acknowledge that he is an imperfect person.
mhm,
Um, and we'll do that for the same reason. We'll look at what he made of himself,
mhm.
given where he came from. And particularly, again, this was just reiterated in the documentary, in the Black community,
Yeah,
one of the most
yeah,
successful Black, entrepreneurs and business people
yep,
who branched out into different, I mean, a good reminder. I mean, it wasn't even just music that he was producing and creating. He then, got into fashion and cologne. And I think I even had Sean John cologne at some point when I was a teenager.
yeah,
And then, ruled MTV.
right,
Like, he had like multiple shows
yep,
on MTV. And in one of the episodes, they talked about, hey, this was like the only show on MTV at the time, whenever the time was, where it was predominantly Black people in
mhm,
the show.
mhm,
And so I
yeah,
think a lot of people who would apologize, or excuse some aspects, maybe not everything, but some aspects of his behavior, would do so because they would be looking at it at that level.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments as you listen to this. And if you want, we will I will finish watching the last 2 episodes, and Rob and I will come back and do another episode on Diddy if it's interesting to people.
Right. And I've never been more prepared to talk about Diddy. I can't believe I've
This is
talked
the
about
moment.
it for over an hour. Yeah. So listen, folks, if you want to hear more, then let's do it.
Rob is ready.
I'm ready. And this knowledge is not going to stay with me.
We are at Shrink Space Show at Gmail and Shrink Space Show everywhere you get your social media, TikTok, Instagram, all of it.
Well, Dave, I reluctantly thank you for the suggestion to watch this. I think you mentioned Suge Knight more than you did Diddy in this. I'm not quite sure. I think I could do an episode alone. Why you're talking about him so much, but maybe that's a separate show.
Separate. Well, let us know in the comments if you would like my forthcoming
leadership book
on Suge Knight and Diddy. All right. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Bye, everyone.